Looks like everything is good. But anyway, I was getting into the meat of how women we idealize things, right? And oftentimes we think that things should go a certain way, based maybe even based off of our experiences or even from consumer media that says, this is what a man is, and men don't cry and men are heroic and men are successful and all these different things. But then in real life, you start to realize that men are human beings too. Men make mistakes too. But something that I am learning is that men have a different way of thinking of relationships, particularly marriage. And so, what I've learned is oftentimes we look for men to be this impossible being. Um, like, oftentimes men get criticized if they express their emotions or if they're having shortcomings or they're dealing with failures and things like that. And, I'll just say for myself, there has been times when I just couldn't see the men in my life, including my husband. Like, how are you struggling with something that's so minute? How are you making the smallest thing so big, so mountainous? And what I have learned, and I've only been married, let's say, it's going on 5 years, right? What I've learned is that when a man really cares about something or someone and something goes wrong, whatever that thing is that goes wrong, it really affects them, you know. And for women, I think society is so nice to us that when things go wrong with us, we tend to have like safety nets. And I mean, we even go as far as to have like scapegoats and stuff like that, to where we don't really have to deal with consequences the way that men do. Like when a woman fails at something, everybody's always looking at, first of all, how cute she is. That's just number one. Like, oh, well, now if she's not attractive, it'd be like, oh, be careful, right? So when a man fails, it's never on some old, you know, hey Leo, um, I try to interact with the chat, by the way. Smith, I'm gonna try not to butcher people's names, so shout out to y'all. But yeah, so like on the flip side, like when men fail, nobody cares, like whether or not he's attractive or not. All they care about is the fact that you failed as a man, and it's like that's the end of the story for you. You can work as hard as you can as a man, and nobody cares. Like I said before, women on the flip side. If a woman just is, if she's attractive, she can just mess up all the time, and it doesn't matter because that's just how it is in society, right? And so, with that being said, I'm learning in my marriage. Um, oh yeah, shout out for, I think Chloe says, okay, face looks like a bad boy, is feminine. Yeah, I'm what you call androgynous. And I ain't trying to be on no funny stuff. Like I am a woman, so okay, I love funny people. Yeah, I get that. I get that. Hey, I listen. I used to go to art school. I played male roles. I played female roles. Used to it. Don't bother me none. But yes, I am a woman. I might have to do something to be like, yeah, I'm a woman. But yeah. So okay, bless you. Good night too. But anyway, and funny enough, I'm talking about my marriage basically. So it's like I'm starting to realize that when men care, it's really devastating. And this might be duh for everybody else, but when something goes wrong, and especially if it's something that's out of their control. So, with that being said, this is the second part of the stream. Did the first part, had some technical difficulties, had to boot it back up. But, now that I'm getting the hang of my channel a little bit, I'm starting to learn that, like, first of all, this is like a vlog. That's number one. So now that I got a direction to where, yeah, this is a vlog. Now we're getting to a point where I'm starting to figure out what direction I want to go in. And most everyday people like myself, when we get online and we look at, what's out there, everybody's all glammed up. Everybody's got like fancy cars, big houses, even for women, particularly black women. Like me, I'm just a regular person. I just take care of my kids, take care of my husband, take care of the house. Most times when you see me, I'm in a t-shirt because chasing after toddlers all day. Um, Whatever. So everyday people like me, I don't see them on here. So that's already a perspective. And what I'm realizing is that even like when I listen to people online who are glammed up, it's like they have all these answers that's always going to get them clicks and views or whatever. I'm okay with clicks and views, but that is not my purpose here. What I am trying to do is help just everyday regular women who are serious about getting married, raising families, things like that, giving them like an inside look on what it's like just to be a regular person, right? And to raise your family. And one of the things that I'm really hitting on tonight is when you're married and you just keep hitting a wall. Because my husband and I, we've been going through some things to where it's like, it's frustrating. But one thing that I am learning is that even with me, like I think that women, we kind of have a tendency to give up on things because society is always bending to us, kind of. So, it's like there's always an excuse for us. Like there's always another chance. But for men, it's like when a man mess up, you know, it's like he can make the slightest mistake, and it's like it's the end of the world. But I just want to take a second to look at the not super chats. I'm sorry, but just the chat room real quick. Because I don't want to. I just didn't want to sit up here and blab and ignore people. So I got some Hayes here. Says have a great day. God bless you. God bless you too. And I'm sorry if I don't say your name back. It's just sometimes I don't want to butcher it. And then there's a troll there, which is good. Say not true. Love funny people. At least you're married. Appreciate that, Lee. Yep. And then I got a good night there. Need to bleach my eyes. Probably another troll. I can't even pronounce your name, hate ham. Like, if you're gonna troll me, at least have something I can pronounce so I can say ha. I don't know what that means, but that's cool. It's a too many makeup tip videos anyway. Hey, I appreciate that, Lee. Shout out to Lee. And cause yeah, and I'm not making any kind of effort to try to look earthy or nothing. Listen, I used to be a skilled. Let's not even lie. I've worn plenty of hats in my career. I was military, went to college, and then, went into truck driving. Absolutely love truck driving, miss it every day. But now that I got my two babies, I got two small children, 1-year-old, 2-year-old. I'm home with them. So then, I was just like, oh well, I got time. I can, get on here. Never really been a social media person, but one thing about social media, it has taught me that people are mean. So like, yeah, trolls, they be coming at me. Yeah, amen, salute. Yeah, USA all day. But yeah, and like I said though, Lee, I really appreciate it because I remember I told my husband, I was like, dang, I went live. The first time I went live, they was eating me up. One of them live, they ate me up so bad, I got so upset. I deleted it. Because I was just getting chewed up and I didn't know how to handle it, right? So I want to try, but hey, let me tell you something. I enjoy it. If you start, it's good. You know what? I'm gonna veer off real quick. I kind of feel like this is where it's going. I kind of feel like, I don't know, Lee, have you ever watched this movie? Not movie, but this series on Netflix called Black Mirror? Like, there's this one episode where, in order to get things in life, you have to have like a rating, and it's kind of like a credit score, but it's like you have to have a social media presence, and your approval rating on social media. Yeah, okay, cool. So you see what I'm saying? So that one episode where you get so many points based off of your interactions with people, And then people can give you a lower rating, and that'll affect your ability to buy things where you can live. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like that's where we're going. I really feel like that. Like I said, I threw everything at it. High school, I was trying to do the best I can. I was in advanced placement. I played a little bit of basketball. Wasn't good at it, but I was doing everything to make myself as marketable as possible. And then, join the military. I literally was a pilot in the Air Force. Well, I wasn't a pilot in the Air Force, but I was in flight training. Everything. And it was like, I got all these skills, I got a degree, and then I realized, it's bad when you go, ooh, I might as well get a CDL. It's like, so, yeah, I hope not too, but let's just be honest. The only people I see that are just making money from just working steadily is like people on social media. Like it seemed like even in truck driving, you would think as a truck driver, and this is something my husband and I are going through because we both used to be over the road together, right? So you would think that as long as we're transporting freight, money should just be rolling in, right? Everything that we have comes from a truck driver bringing it in, shipping and receiving. But they have found ways, like people in the industry have found ways to rig it to where if you're driving a truck, it doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna make money. And so that is one of the what you call it, one of the things that we went through. I know, right? Like they just bend over and you know. And then I don't know if and I can't really make out your profile pic. I don't know if you're a sister, but it just feels like if you don't have the weave, if you don't have the makeup, if you don't have the lashes, if and I don't know if y'all can pick up on this about me, but see, my mom used to be into that stuff. She used to be late fashion, everything. She used to be on top of my sister. My sister can keep up with that stuff. Me, like, I have sensitive skin. Like, one of the reasons why I kind of chilled out on going live, it was two reasons. First of all, my husband was in town. So anytime he's in town, like, I'm spending all that time with him. I usually just kind of make a bunch of shorts. But I ate something. I think we ordered Chinese food, and it just broke my whole face out. Like, and I was like, oh man, I can't be on live, and I'm there. You know what I mean? But yeah, like it is intimidating. Like doing this can be intimidating because it just feels like everybody has like an avatar. Like with black women, if you ain't got the hair and the makeup and different color hair and stuff, I don't know. I feel like I think that there needs to be more black women, just regular black women like myself, though. Like that's what I think. Because I've heard content creators talk down about black women on social media, and on one end, of course, I don't like it because I am a black woman. But then on the other end, when you think about the representation of black women in the media, in social media in particular, they are generally speaking, just like how, shout out to Lee, she brought the whole OnlyFans things up. Oftentimes, if I just type in black woman, I'm seeing, getting into fights, ghetto stuff, twerking, OF, being in the club, and it's like we're not that. Like, but I used to be the type that was like, I'ma just mind my business. I'ma just I'ma go to work. Before we had kids, I would just go to work, and me and my husband were gonna do our thing. We have kids, we raise our family, we be quiet. But now that I'm a stay-at-home mom and I consume media constantly to pass the time, I'm starting to realize, like, dang, like, when I get on here, of course I'm gonna get scrutinized. Everybody gets bold behind the keyboard, But my husband, he just keeps pushing. He's like, yeah, go, 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 because there are not black women out there who are just regular person, and especially when they get on this topic about what kind of man black women are looking for. And it's like, black women like me, we usually stay quiet. We be chilling, oftentimes shout out to Lee again. It's like, hey, I'm scared to go on there. I was scared to go on here, because I was like, dang, what if I get doxxed? What if people get mad at me? But it's like, At the same time, it's my platform. I can say whatever I want. I get a troll here and there. People be mean, But at the end of the day, I mean, in my real life, people are generally pretty cool. It says, got another chat here. It says, true, I'm not a sister, but I don't wear makeup. In FLA. I don't know what FLA is. Cause it's, oh, Florida? I'm thinking it's Florida. Okay, well, cool. Well, still shout out to you anyway. Because this makeup thing, like, I wanted to apologize formally. I did a live because I came across this report on harmful chemicals in women's hair products, particularly black women's hair products. Now, I'm sure it's in everybody's hair products across the board, but I did it, and like I said, I wanted to formally apologize because I didn't know that when I was uploading it that it was, when you look at it, it's on like this really small screen. That's not what I was going for. But at any rate, you'd be surprised how many harmful chemicals is in women's hair and makeup products. And to just kind of piggyback on talking about what's generally on social media, when you see women acting crazy on the internet, I was trying to make the argument that it's not all us. Like, it's not, because the chemicals that are in our beauty products, they are so harmful, right? But yeah, I can go on and on about that. But I'm still interacting with the chat, so anybody feel free. But I'm to go back to this whole, for my title. My husband's name is Joshua, and it's just like, yeah, I love you because we had such a rough day today, and a lot of times, like even the things that we're arguing about, one thing I'm starting to realize when you're married is that, and I don't know if it's different when you're single, but women, we have one way of seeing things. I feel like when we get married, we think of our relationship differently than we would have thought of if we were single. So, for example, I hear women say all the time about their boyfriends, their long-term boyfriends and stuff like that. If he don't do right, I'll just get another one. Or, Beyonce's famous to the left song, like everything you own in the box to the left. Or, I'm strong and independent, I don't need no man, blah, blah, blah. That goes out the window when you're married. And you start to realize once you're married, you have made vows. And even if you think about the fact that you've made vows, you can't just leave, right? Obviously. So, like, for exes that I've had, or even just people I was going out with, right? If I just decided, hey, something just turned me off, or I'm good, or if I meet your family, oh boy, I'm telling you, meeting the family. I'm sorry to say this, but this is me, my platform, but I've had really cool relationships. And when I met the family, I realized, listen, I don't want to be tied to that, right? All due respect, like, I got no kids, my credit was good, never been married, all that good stuff. So I just felt like I'm gonna get a bang for my buck, So when I met my husband, it was like jackpot. It's even to the point where I tell him all the time, I be like, man, I got lucky when I got him. And I think that's another thing about women is that I don't know if we're honest about the guy that we're with to be able to admit when we got lucky. I think a lot of times when we get the man that make us feel like we're lucky to have him, we take him for granted. Or we try to find ways to make him prove that he wants to be with us. And we end up ruining something that was perfect for us. Just a theory of mine, my platform, just throwing it out there. With my husband, I knew for a fact anybody after him is gonna hear about him all the time. All the time. Because this man, it was weird. A lot of people, I've heard some people say, oh, we were the best of friends before we got into a relationship, and then, or we were good friends before we decided to, just get married. The day I met Josh, I never felt like we were friends. I never. I felt like I met my husband like day one. And it wasn't on no love at first sight thing. It was more of a, it just fit. It was just like I just meshed into him. Like, I don't know how he was affected when he met me, but it was like immediately I just clasped. It was just so easy. Like, making sacrifices was so easy. Um, just listening to what he had to say was easy. It was just so easy. Whereas, I had a, I had an ex that I was engaged to, and it always felt like work. It always felt like I had to meet him halfway. I had to sometimes even read like relationship books and stuff like that. I had to do work. I had to literally work at being with my ex fiance. It was, oof. Josh, never. Not a question, not a second thought. It was just it was it, you know. Um, and this is why I lean on. You ever hear people say, parents, they tell their kids, "I'm not your friend, I'm your mama. I'm not your friend, I'm your daddy." It was kind of like that feeling, like, I'm not your friend, I'm your wife. That's how it felt. And to this day, it feels that way. I mean, because here's the deal. There's a certain level of duty and obligation that comes with being married that a friend will never know. A friend will never feel. A friend will never, because friendships are maintained, but sometimes when you're married, you may have to maintain for both of y'all sometimes, because life has its faults, right? Like, you can't always be grade A every day. And that's the beauty of marriage, is that somebody is there, or even when they're not. And that's the beautiful thing. Like, I'm going through this process, like, even when he's not here in the way that I think he should be, the vows are more, I guess this is me speaking from the heart. They're more seductive than the experience, because the fact that we're still going through the trenches and we're still going, and there are times, and I'll be honest with y'all, I get tired. I'm a very fight or flight kind of person. Um, Sometimes you hear people that are like non-confrontational. I'm a weird opposite of that. Like, yeah, I'm very forward. I'm very confrontational, right? But in a sense that I need to figure out, is it worth fighting or running from? That's how I am. And what I'm learning at this stage of my marriage is, sometimes it's not about fighting or running. Sometimes it's about enduring. Sometimes it's about being faithful to the vow and what it represents. And I'm just so grateful, going back to my earlier point, I'm just so grateful that I'm married to a man that lives to keep that vow. It's like he's devoted. And women, I think we need to really take time and appreciate the way that men function, especially when a man is serious about you and committing to you. And I really stress this word commit, because oftentimes I would see women who think they can groom a man into being committed. And this has been my experience. If a man is committed to you, he's committed to you, period. It's like an on-off switch. It's literally like this. He either with you or he not. It's one or the other. And oftentimes we get people who flicker and we go, "Oh, he was good. Everything was great." When everything's great, he's good. But then when everything is bad, it's bad. You know what you're looking at? I'll give you a demonstration. I'm gonna give you a demonstration. What you're looking at when you're dealing with somebody like that is this. That's what you're dealing with. That's what you're dealing with. This is different than this. A lot of times women, this is what we go for. This is who we give our all to. Oh, I thought it would be different. You still in the dark. You know the sad part about relationships like those? That man that's in the dark, his light is on like this for somebody else. That's one thing that I love about men. That's one thing that I really, really love about men. Like women, we can fill it out. We can, I guess to some extent, we can be like a chameleon. You know, we can just kind of, move around a little bit, right? Men ain't like that. When I tell you my husband, from the day I met him, he was like, I got you. Regardless of his condition, he was like, hey, if I only got a little bit, we gonna make it work. If you can get a man that does that, man. And oftentimes I do, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I get upset. I grew up, I was a spoiled brat. I got my way all the time. I ain't gonna lie to you. I got my way the majority of times, right? But yeah, I just felt like this needed to be said because so many people be thinking that marriage is the finish line. No, marriage is the beginning of the marathon. Like it truly is. Like whatever you've been doing to get to that point, it's gonna show. Like, and I understand the high divorce rates too. Like marriage is a divine thing. It is so far above the human psyche. And I'm in it. I'm learning it. You got people who have dating advice. You have people who have formulas. You have people who have if-then statements, theories, and hypotheses. I'm telling you right now, and I have to say this, I feel like women are more shaky in marriage than men. And I feel like oftentimes when women do get married, this is kind of gonna be weird, but I feel like we always marry the one that is not for us. And we try to make that person who's not for us be for us. And that's the majority. And I can see that, the high divorce rate. With my situation, I married my husband. Actually, let me stop that. My husband married me. That's number one. Number two, since he married me, times when I'm unstable, it's like I get a reality check. It's like the consistent stability, the foundation of the marriage rests on my husband. And I don't know, I know a lot of people quote the Bible saying like the women are the weaker vessel and all these different things. And boy, I am feeling that. Like that's another thing too. I'm gonna say this. Like how society is like everybody should be single and all this other stuff, right? It's like if you're always single, you will never grow like this. You will never grow like this because it forces you to grow. It forces you to stop thinking about yourself because you can't just walk out. Like some of these folks I know, some of them, they be like, oh yeah, we're spiritually married. Yeah, but you're just as spiritually married as the average person that can just say, hey man, I'm out deuces. Like it's different when you have that like commitment on you. And especially, and I can't stress this enough, you get to see what a man is really about at this point. Because you got your whole you got your whole life. Um, I'm learning so much. Like things that I never thought would be an issue in the marriage, the little nitpicky things when it starts to build up. Like for me, and again, another thing about my personality, I'm kind of a perfectionist. So if something is wrong, I don't want to deal with that thing being wrong for 2 days, not even 2 hours, like 2 days tops. 2 business days, it needs to be resolved. That's how I am. Boom. That's not how life works, though, right? And that's another thing I think with women too. Like I've been covered my whole life. I've had men, I've been blessed and privileged enough to have men in my life making sure that I was good, right? Um, and so because of that, I kind of look for relief. And I think in here in Western society, I'm here in the United States and I'm in the South, I'm in North Carolina. And, people where I live, they are always kind to the women. I mean, I remember this one lady, no disrespect at all, but she had on a skirt and she was blowing that smell everywhere. And any man that saw her go to a door, they held it for her. They automatically took the door. They didn't care that she had poor hygiene. They didn't care that she was a loud mouth. She was very, she was not ladylike. But down here in the South, it's Southern hospitality. She's still a woman. You treat her like a lady. You know. Now, with my husband, he's from the North. And he grew up out west. So the culture here is a little, he's getting used to it. Um, but even that, like, just me talking right now, I'm realizing even on this live, we have cultural differences. It's not just like our upbringing and our social norms to bring into account. Um, you get to do this because when you're married, it forces you to think. You have to think. You can't be mindless. I can't tell you how many times I've been dating someone exclusively and I just was going through the motions. And just like, one relationship, I was going through the motions for like probably like 2 years straight. And I was with this guy that was just holding on to me. And I was like, oh God, like the day he broke up with me, I was like, oh. Because I don't know, I feel like I'm the type of person that if I'm with somebody and they ain't leaving me, I ain't leaving them. Shout out to Snow. What's going on, Snow? Good to see you again. So like I just, and I hate to say it, but it was like the guy I was with, he wasn't perfect, but he wasn't bad. But I was like, man, I hope he break up with me. I was like, man, I hope he break up with me. But I would have to say this in my marriage. This is the first time I've been with somebody that I felt like, oh man, if we broke up, that would break me. Like that's how I knew we needed to get married because I was like, I could not imagine, if we split up. Now, I'm gonna tell you, I don't know if I'm like super duper old school, but I'm the type of person. I'm not mean to my exes. Like I stay away from them and stuff like that. But if me and my husband ever split, I'd be like, well, okay, hey man, I got your back. No matter what. Hey man, we got so far that we changed names and address and diapers together. Ain't no way I'm gonna just be on some old bulldog, whatever type stuff. I ain't gonna be like that. But like, yeah, so I just felt the need to come on here because I think a lot of people they think of marriage as like this happily ever after. You made it to the finish line. No. It's work. It's work. It's good work though. Like it even improves your social relationships beyond just relationships, like just friendships and stuff like that. Just reading this chat real quick. Say I had a relationship like that too. I was actually glad she lived my life. I'm so glad somebody knows what I'm talking about. Because I be telling my family and friends, like, okay, the person that broke up with me finally, you finally let me go. And 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 my family, they felt so bad for me because I was with him for like 2 years. It was like, oh, and I just felt bad. I didn't, I mean, we went through a lot of shady stuff together, but I was younger in my early 20s, and I just felt like there's so many things that women complain about in relationships, and mostly financial stuff women will complain about. And I did not have any financial issues at all. But just the personality, our personalities would clash. Our friends hated each other. They tolerated each other for the sake of our relationship. It was just so much work. So when he told me that he was going back to his ex, I was like, hallelujah. Like, I was like, yes. Like, I mean, okay, my feelings were hurt, but I was thinking, who could you imagine how much of a mess that would have been? Like, I believe in fate too. Like, I believe that people cross paths and they're supposed to and all that. It would have been horrible if I would have met Josh after marrying my ex. Divorce rate. So, did you work before you were? Yes, I worked. I was in the military, and then after the military, I was a truck driver. I was an over the road truck driver. So, yep, I was working. I feel like the military was like my easiest job ever. I was in the Air Force. I wasn't in one of them hard branches. Um, but yeah, I did, and actually, my husband and I, we used to actually work on the road together. Um, Especially when we realized we couldn't have. Well, we went to the doctors, and the doctors were telling me there was no way we could have kids. So we were like, oh, might as well get a truck, go on the road, and we have this silver truck, and I guess I might do like a video to talk about it. But we had this pretty silver truck. It was a Kenworth T680, I think. Oh man, that thing was so beautiful. I don't know if you're familiar with trucks, with big rigs, but the sleeper was just, oh, it was so big, it was so comfortable. It was nice. We had a little fridge in there. I mean, and we were just jumping from coast to coast. But then, pandemic happened and blah, blah, blah. And then by the time the pandemic lifted, I learned about Junior. Junior was a surprise, and then they were like, "Hey, you got lucky. You had a baby. Blah blah. We didn't think you had." For over 10 years, I was told I couldn't have kids. So it was like my husband and I. We tried to have kids for like 3 years straight. I mean, checking ovulation cycles and calendars and everything. Going to the doctor's appointments. We were actually considering adoption or what is that? Not artificial insemination, but like fertility treatments. And by the time we learned about Junior, I mean, we were literally checking out adoption agencies in our area, you know. But yeah, we were able to have Junior, very blessed to have him. And I was told, hey man, you got lucky with him. And then we had Jazz, and I was like, okay, am I getting lucky or do you? But little fun fact though, like a lot of people in my family, they've had that same issue. Like my dad, he had me in his 30s. So, you know, I guess that's just like a thing in my family, especially on my dad's side of the family. A lot of times the men have their children later. And then I guess their kids have their children. Now the girls over there, they have kids like that, like, whatever. But like if you're descendant of my dad's side of the family, one of the boys, it takes you a minute because it took the boys a minute. I don't know. It's maybe that's TMI. I don't know. Let me see. You say okay, yeah, cool. My best friend is in the Air Force. I lived with him in Texas for 3 years, a couple years ago. Yeah, man, Air Force is it's pretty chill. It was chill for me, but I just the culture for me was not it. Like I went into the Air Force for all the wrong reasons. I'm gonna say that number one. I think the Air Force is absolutely the best branch of military you can go into. I don't recommend any other branch. If you don't make the cut for the Air Force, I would say Navy, but I'm gonna say Army, cause I'm gonna just speak from my own experience. If I wouldn't have made it into the Air Force, most likely I would have gone Army because like I was hanging out with Navy people. I did. I mean, they're cool. They're more cool socially. They're more tight knit. But I feel like if you want to be more career ready, I think Air Force is top notch, and then next is Army, and then next is Navy, Marine Corps. I don't really know what the Coast Guard is doing. I mean, I know some. I just know one cool person from the Coast Guard. But yep, I was in the Air Force. I was active duty, went reserve, was going to college, graduated college, went in a truck driving, met my husband, which is so funny because while I was in college, my husband lived around the corner from my apartment. I used to get noise complaints from his neighborhood around the corner from my apartment all the time. So I used to say to myself all the time, first chance I get to get on them people about my parties, I'm gonna get them a piece of my mind. That's so when we came out the road and he showed me where he lived, I was like, oh my God, you're the one that was saying I was too loud. And as you can see over here on the East Coast, it's 3 o'clock. Bam. Still doing it, just doing it in a mommy way. Um, but it's easier to go live when my babies are asleep. So when they're asleep, and if I got some energy and if want to check in with some folks, I need to start going live during the day, but I ain't gonna lie to y'all, like, I be chasing my kids, man. I be chasing them around. They get into all kinds of stuff. And I love that. Like, I did not think I would love being a mom so much. And then people, a lot of times, I understand where people are coming from. I understand people so much more now that I have kids. Like, I used to judge people. I used to be like, if you struggling, why you keep having babies? It's because they're fertile. People are fertile, right? And that's been a struggle of mine. Like, I just keep imagining, like, my ex that I was just talking about earlier. What if I was able to have kids at that time? I don't mean to be weird, but I was like, yo, that would be, and that's what the average person goes through. I'm sure there are average, everyday people who's with somebody that they really not sure they want to be with, but they're like, especially if you got a kid. Let me tell you something. Shout out to anybody in here if y'all don't have no kids. But once you have kids, it gets so real. Like, so real. Because then you realize, like, your life is teaching. It's a group project. Like, you gotta have teamwork. Yeah, I've never been ready to have kids. It's still like, don't rush. Hey, Snow, do not rush. Please don't. I see people jump into this all the time. I see people do. All my siblings, I told them, like, hey, yo, hey. And then sometimes they'll be mean because they knew, like, my eggs was dry or something. I don't know what was going on with me. But my kids was not happening in my 20s. It just was not happening. I was in a long-term committed relationship. The guy I was with wanted to get married, and he was like, oh, we could probably do some kind of, I think it was IVF he was talking about. And I was like, dude, I don't even like your face. Like, but I always recommend, make sure you get married first. Get legally married. And then especially talking to men. If you do not legally get married, the crazy stuff these people talk about, like if you have a child in the hospital, they treat the child's father like he's a donor, like by default. Like, they treat him like he has no say in anything. Now they had to chill out when I had my kids because they saw that we were legally married. When they saw my husband and I, we had the same last name, they just kind of backed off. So when our daughter was born, they already knew, we're married, whatever. But when we had our son, they were just like, talking to me as if my husband was not in the room. Like, just, it's crazy. And it's like, they don't have to respect you. Like, they go really, really by the book with your kids. And they take full advantage. Like, if you're not legally If a man is not legally, and I don't know if you're in a state, Snow, but and whoever else is in the chat or whatever, but um, in the states, and especially and particularly, I was shocked because I'm here in North Carolina. So I was like, when they were treating Josh the way they were treating him, like he has no say. Okay, California. I lived out. I was actually stationed in California. I was stationed at Beale Air Force Base. That's more like Central Cali, closer to Northern Cali. No, that's not Central Cali. That is Northern Cali, Cali up by. I don't know if you're familiar with Yuba City, Marysville, Olivehurst. I was up there. North Sacramento, up past what's that? Roseville. But anyway, yeah, here in the South, you would think that since they're like old school, I guess, traditional, that, they would be like, oh, family. No. they were talking to him, even like when my husband was like, we already agreed on a name, for our son, he was going to be a junior. And of course, I just like, and I don't mean to be TMI, but I just gave birth. I was exhausted. Right after Junior was born, they were like, hey, what do you want to name him? And they were talking to me. And my husband was like, hey, Joshua Jr., I'm going to name him after me. And they just kept asking me as if my husband didn't say anything. And that was weird. I was like, huh? And so they were like, hey, are you fine with that name? I was like, yeah, he said it. Like, I'm loopy, um, which was crazy. But yeah, man, they like, oh, and I'm just go ahead and say this too. Like for our daughter, right? So I went into labor with her in the middle of the night. So naturally, we didn't have a sitter. We brought our son with us. And I didn't think that was going to be an issue. They made such a big stink about my son and my husband being in the hospital. And they stopped acting crazy about it when my husband was like, this is my wife. Because they were trying to tell him only legal family members only. And he was like, yeah, I am a legal family member. He's like, oh no. You're the father, just because you're the father of the child doesn't make you a legal family member. And I was like, like, I'm like, yo, baby daddies get treated terribly, yo. And then could you imagine if I were a bitter baby mama? That's not funny, but bitter, like if I was a bitter baby mama, having that kind of power, yeah, get out. You ain't family. Okay, that ain't funny, but I just thought that was so bizarre. But like, yeah, he was like, yeah, we're legally married. I'm not just wearing this hardware, yeah. So they were trying to tell him he couldn't be in there, and he was like, he got offended. He was like, first of all, my wife don't get around like that. That's number one. Number two, even if she did get around like that, we legally married. So whoever she give birth to, that's my kid. Like, he just. That's how he was about the whole thing. Say I'm about 3 hours from Roseville. Yeah, you said I just had a sister and brother, both married, just had their first kids. Yeah, man, and it's a trip. It's a trip, dude. Like, please marry before you carry. I can't say this enough, y'all. I can't say, and I know it's not a popular opinion, but and I'm gonna go as far as to say this. I know gay marriage is a thing. I'm gonna address this because I've had some gay friends and they've gotten married and they've gone through divorces. It has not been pretty for them. It has not. Like, one of my gay friends, she was actually in California. You would think that they would be mindful of a person's assets and stuff like that, but let me tell you, the minute your partner has a child, with or without your permission, you locked in, buddy. You get a divorce, you pay the child support, you're not moving on. I think that gays should go the old-fashioned way. I think that they should stay free. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. You need yin and yang for marriage. Just my opinion. It's just me saying what I'm saying on my platform. But yeah, I think some states are still handouts for how involved the dads. Yeah, holdouts. Yeah, Like even with my husband being married, they really treat the men like they have no say. They treat the men like they have no say. And the only way a man can protect himself with his children is if he's legally married to the mother of the child, which is crazy. You know, like they'll take your money, you'll pay child support. You know, you'd be liable to cover that child's insurance as a man, the whole nine. But if you're not legally married, you are at the mercy of the mother of that child, which goes back again. Like, I'm not the type of woman that would try to afflict my husband. You know, I'm not that kind of person. But I've even seen women, you know, take advantage of the fact that men have limitations with what they can and cannot do with their kids and stuff, and they take full advantage, you know, married women. And it was just stuff that I didn't know, you know, and yeah, like even the hospital was telling me, you know, they were telling me, you know, for our daughter, so our daughter's our second child, you know, if you don't want him here, you could tell him to leave. I'm like, okay. And they told me that like more than once, you know, you could get him to leave. I'm like, why would I get him to leave? That's crazy, you know? And then eventually, like the head doctor on staff, like my husband was asleep that morning. So I had her, they do this whole, they want you to stay for a minimum of 24 hours or whatever. So I had her, and then we stayed overnight. And the next morning, they just kind of walked in and was like, you know, I guess the head nurse on morning shift did not know we were married. And she was like, oh no, your child's father can't be here. And I was like, yeah, I can have a family member in here. Oh, well, yeah, you have to be legally married. And I was like, yes, we're legally married. Did you check the paperwork? And she left and she came back, and you could tell she kind of, you know, felt bad about her exchange because she just knew we weren't married. So when she came storming back in, she was like, well, I'm sorry, it's normal protocol that the child's father, and in my mind, I let her slide because I know she's used to whatever, you know. Even though she was rude to me, I was like, yeah, okay, lady, you know. Let me see. It says, just reading these chats real quick. Say, I am for gay marriage for the simple fact that I believe in equal rights. Whether or not it's a good idea or effective is a different issue for me. Yeah. So like, this is why I argue with that logic though, because a lot of the gay rights laws are like they don't. It's like they're incomplete. It's like for gay marriage, they built a bridge, but no reinforcements and no guardrails. So it's like, yeah, you can have these rights, but the court system, the family law system, is so antiquated to where they don't really, what are the words? It's like the laws are so set in stone for men, for a man and a woman, that I feel like the judges discriminate when gay couples divorce. That's just, you know, and this is why this is how I go about it. I feel like gay people, like the LGBTQ community, still has like a lot of work to do when it comes to their rights. Because yeah, they can get married, but the court system, it in a divorce, like if you think they handle heterosexual couples and their children sloppily, LGBTQ, like they don't care, man. They just, oh, it's a I feel like every court case that I used to check out online or whatever when there was same-sex couples, it was almost as if the judge was punishing the gay couple for being married in the first place. Like they weren't really willing to hear either person's side of the story. And I think I talked about this the last live when I was saying how there was this lesbian couple, and before they got married, they agreed that they didn't want children. So the one who was like the top, or the masculine one, or the stud. So you had the femme, the stay at home or whatever, and then you had like the guy in the relationship or whatever. And she was like, "Listen, we barely getting by. You know, we're gonna get married so we can be committed to each other, so we can have rights, so I can put you on my benefits. But I'm gonna just be real with you. I can't afford no kid. I ain't interested in having no kid." And she told her wife that before they got married, right? Okay. Fast forward like a year and a half in, the housewife wants children. So she goes out, have a child against her wife's wishes. And now you fast forward about 2 years later, they're in divorce court, and the judge did not care at all that the one who's actually providing was saying, "Hey, I can't afford this." None of that mattered. All that mattered is you're married to a woman who has a child, and it is your responsibility to take care of that child. I don't think that's fair. I really don't. And I think the case is more complicated because, in my opinion, if I was the judge presiding over that case, the woman who had the baby, she actually admitted it too. She was like, "Yeah, she didn't want any kids. She told me from the beginning she didn't want no kids." And the judge was like, "It don't matter. She's still paying child support." Which makes me wonder, like, can the mom double dip, right? Can she get child support from her ex-wife and her child's father? And then let me tell you, the most horrible part about that is this woman who had the baby, she gets to go on with her life and go be with her child's father. And she's digging into this other lady's money. And that's the part that kind of bothers me. I feel like the rights are like incomplete. And say, yes, some nurses are weird. I don't know. Maybe a bit control issues or something. And it says, I think that's why we need to update our laws. And say, sure, but some scenario can be and has been played out with straight couples too. Yeah, I feel like, okay, this again, I don't mean to be offensive, but I feel like the system is already so jacked up with straight people. This is a question I have for like LGBTQ. If you see that heterosexual couples are having such a tough go at it, why would you want this? Like I'm so curious. Like I cannot wait until my channel gets bigger so that I can start interacting with more demographics to kind of see what people are thinking. Because I have to tell you, if I was gay, I would never get married. Why? Why? Like, okay, I understand why men and women get married because you can have kids, like biological kids. So, like, from a legal standpoint, it's like it's good to have your children under like one umbrella and stuff like that. And then it just makes sense. But for gay people, it's like you're tying up all your assets, and you this person, I just can't get over the fact that your partner can have kids with somebody else. That's what get me. Like that's a nightmare for me. Uh-oh. Hey, mama. Well, y'all know how I do. I stay up until the kids wake up and everything. But hey, I appreciate everybody who tuned in. I gotta go get my baby. Shout out to all y'all. And a big shout out to Snowman. Good to see you again. But I will definitely be coming on here another time. But gotta go get my daughter, y'all. She teething. She cranky. I'm coming, mama. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good night.